Everybody, welcome to this video. So glad you're here. If it's your first time here, welcome. If it's one of your first few videos, so glad you are sticking around. For those of you who are new here, this channel is dedicated to mental, emotional, relational, spiritual health from a biblical worldview. We are pursuing living with a whole soul in the midst of a broken world. We believe that's achievable and possible, and we're here encouraging each other together. So I hope you'll find community in the comments below of people running the same race as you, where we can all be an encouragement to each other. Today, I want to talk about healing from emotional burnout. Healing from emotional burnout. And the reason I'm talking about this today is precisely because I'm in the midst of waging this war myself. And I think a lot of people are waging this war right now. And just the season we're in right now, at the time I'm filming this video, it's the holiday season, and that in and of itself can lead to emotional burnout, can lead to a ton of stress. And so I'm on a personal level, since July, August, coming out of a really intense season where I've had a lot of massive deadlines and projects due all within the same amount of time, a short window there. And I'm just getting on the other side of a lot of that. Hopefully in 2025, once we get past the spring, things will slow down for me. And I'm feeling how exhausted I've been. And you know sometimes how you're going at such a fast pace that it's not until you slow down a little bit that your body actually is like, wow, I was being neglected. I'm exhausted. Holy moly. You could probably still hear it in my head. I've been like fighting a cold for like 6 weeks now. My body's just, I'm exhausted. And so this is what's led me to kind of talk about healing from emotional burnout, because I don't think I'm the only one. I think more people than not are probably encountering emotional burnout. And so I'm going to talk about it for a little bit. Obviously, emotional burnout, if you're not familiar with what that is, essentially, it's a state of exhaustion that one enters into from carrying large amounts of stress for prolonged periods of time, carrying frustration. You can also enter that because of other emotional things you might be carrying, such as undealt with trauma, pain, different things like that. But for our purposes today, I'm going to really narrow in on emotional burnout due to a fast pace of life and a heavy load that we're carrying. That's really what I want to focus on right now for today. And this emotional burnout can really affect our mental health. So certainly it affects us on a personal level, but it also affects us on a relational level, right? Because who we are sort of changes, and it's not usually in a good direction. And then as a result, obviously people we have to interact with day in and day out. Holiday season, we're going to be seeing people a lot. What version of us are they getting? It's the emotionally burnt out version, which is usually irritable and frustrated. And so I think this is really important that we talk about it, okay? If you are like me and you go through these stages where you experience chronic fatigue, a loss of motivation, that's a big one, irritability, maybe detachment, maybe you're detaching socially from other people, you're detaching like relationally in that sense, but you're also detaching even when you're kind of alone, like maybe you are getting really numb. Maybe you are, I don't know if you've experienced this, but it's at times where you can just like dissociate, kind of like daydream, and you're like just staring at a wall and you're just completely numb. It's like the world is gray around you and it's like blah, you know. I don't know if you can resonate, but that would be emotional burnout can certainly lead you to that place. And it's fascinating. I feel like the reason a lot of this happens is because the pace of life we're running at is way too fast for too long of a period of time. And secondly, we're just carrying way too much weight for way too long of a period of time. Now, it's okay at times to carry a heavy workload, but you have to make sure within that season, if you take that on, you're setting good boundaries so there's a good rhythm of health in the midst of that. But then at the end of it, you really got to create some time for you to recover before you take on more commitments. And so there's just practical things we need to make sure we steward. Most of the time, life doesn't afford that. And life isn't necessarily that luxurious. the pressures of work, family, the modern life, the modern society, if you live in a first world country, I mean, all of these things, they just mount and mount, and it's almost like an endless cycle, kind of like a hamster on a hamster wheel. I don't know if you've seen the episode of Psyche where Sean Spencer, he gets this workout machine and he starts working out, and in the episode someone puts a note on there saying, hey, if your heart rate goes underneath a certain heart rate, a bomb's gonna explode. And so the entire episode, Sean is just like, wearing himself down. And then at the end of the episode, he finds out that someone just stuck that note on there to motivate him, and there was no bomb at all.
Sean, are you all right? Where's the bomb?
He's down there.
Why are you exercising?
If his heart rate drops below 150, he's toast.
Oh my God, I wrote this note.
What?
I left it for Sean as a motivator. I do the same thing before each workout. It's a trick my trainer taught me.
What kind of sick trainer have you been working with?
And I feel like this illustrates our life. Like we feel like if we go, we go, we go. But if we slow down at all, the world's gonna collapse around us. A bomb's gonna go off. Things are just gonna fall apart. And the reality is, it's not. And just like Sean Spencer, he felt like if he stopped, a bomb was gonna explode. The reality was, it wasn't. There was no bomb. But mentally, we keep going at this pace of life and carrying the things we're carrying because we feel like if we slow down, if we stop, there's so much at stake. We're carrying so much. We're gonna let people down. Things are gonna collapse. The first thing we gotta stop and realize is that is a lie. That is not true. Everything's gonna be fine. The world's gonna keep going. It's gonna be okay. No bombs are gonna go off. The world's not gonna collapse if we rest, if we slow down, if we say no to taking on one more thing. And so I think that's super important. But what I wanna really drive our attention to, now I wanna kind of bridge into what are some things we can do about this emotional burnout? How can we begin to heal from this emotional burnout? I wanna start us off by focusing on Jesus's words where he says, "Come to me, all of you who are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." And essentially, I really want to focus in on this invitation from Jesus, because I feel like this invitation from Jesus is our key to healing from this emotional burnout. So come to me, all of you who are heavy laden, basically meaning you who are carrying the weight of the world, who are exhausted and tired and can't keep going. You're trying so hard not to let anybody down. You're trying so hard to be competent. You're trying so hard to check off all the boxes and get it all done within a day and to everyone else's liking and their standards. And you're wearing yourself out. Jesus is saying, hey, come to me and I will give you rest. And I think that it's precisely this invitation that we neglect, that if we would accept it, might have some astronomical benefits for us. First, one way we can accept that invitation, I think, is through daily meditation. And this is just, maybe it's in the morning, if you're a morning person, getting up an extra 30 minutes to an hour early and spending time not with noise on, maybe not even with music, just in a quiet room, light a candle, and just sit and talk to the Lord. Just sit in solitude, sit in silence, allow your brain to settle and calm down and breathe before you start your day. And maybe you're not a morning person. Maybe that's something you reserve for the evening. You've got your children, you've put them to bed. Maybe you get yourself a hot drink and you choose, hey, I'm not gonna veg out on YouTube or social media. I'm not gonna read a book. I'm not gonna do anything like that and stimulate my brain more. I'm just gonna light a candle. I'm going to drink my drink, and I'm just going to breathe, and I'm going to talk to the Lord. And here's something I think is super important to do at the end of your meditation, because these are two separate things, okay? Meditation and then bringing your requests to the Lord. So those are two different things. I definitely think you should meditate, carve out time for that, which is solitude, silence, breathing, and just being, existing, allowing your body to just exist and connect with the Lord and be present with the Lord. But then I'm reminded of what Peter says. I think, don't quote me on this, but I think it's 1 Peter 5:7, where he says, cast your cares upon the Lord because he cares for you, or cast your burdens upon the Lord because he cares for you. Now, if you haven't seen it already, I talked about in a video about one biblical truth that saved my mental health, talking about that the Lord wills our good. If you haven't seen that, I'll leave the link in the description. Go watch that. But in line with that same concept, do you believe that he cares for you? Do you believe that he wills your good? Do you believe that he cares for your finances, that he cares for your emotional health, your bodily health, your mental and relational health, your spiritual health? Do you believe that he cares for you and his concern is for you and that he wills your good? If so, cast your burdens upon him. And I think this is such a great thing to do towards the end of our meditation whenever we're with the Lord, is just begin to state specifically those things that are stressing you and weighing you down. Lord, my finances are stressful. Help us increase our income. Help us create opportunities to get out of debt. Or my family member's health is really stressing me. God, please step in and heal, give peace, give strength, grace, whatever's needed. Whatever that is, begin to be specific and begin to cast those burdens onto the Lord. He cares for you. He hears you and he sees you. So I want to invite you into that. Jesus invites you into that. Come to me. Secondly, I think as a model or a rhythm we could all implement into our life. And my family and I have been trying to do this for the last couple of years. Some seasons we do well, other seasons we don't do well at all. But it's the model of Sabbath. And for us, that looks like a 24-hour period. I usually take off of work a little earlier on Fridays. We come home, have a great dinner, have a great family time, and then it leads us into Saturday. And that's just a day where we try to unplug from digital devices. I try to turn my brain off from work and not think about anything, which, by the way, is extremely difficult for me to do. My brain is one that just runs and runs and runs and runs. And so I try, usually without success, to kind of dial that back. But over time, I develop that muscle and get a little bit better. So all day Saturday is just a day to be with family and to delight in God and to delight in his creation and to rest. And what this basically does is, going back to that analogy of Spencer on that bike thinking he's going to blow everything up, it's basically resisting that feeling and choosing to have faith, where if I stop and honor God in his Sabbath, he's going to take care of absolutely everything. So I'm going to exercise faith over fear. It would be fear causing us not to want to slow down, not to want to take things off our shoulders. And I'm going to exercise faith, which says, no, I'm going to deny that fear. I'm going to slow down. I'm going to stop, and I'm going to trust God. If the world comes crumbling down around me, well, the Lord's going to take care of that and provide in the midst of that. But I don't think it will, because he's my provider and he's my sustainer. It's going to be okay. I can take a day to rest. Unplug, turn everything off, connect with your family, delight in God that day and delight with his creation that day. And I believe we're actually going to see some good fruit in our emotional state, our mental clarity. We're going to feel rested. And if you're treating Sabbath, I just need to say this, if you're treating Sabbath as a day to rest from the week behind, you're doing it wrong, right? This is a day to not only rest from the week behind, of course, but also prepare and recharge and to recenter, but also to stimulate vision and excitement for the week ahead, so that we can steward what's ahead of us in a healthy, godly way, right? And so these are the two aspects of Sabbath that we need to have in mind. Some practical things that I just want to hit on before concluding is one, I want to encourage you to maybe look at simplifying your commitments and get better at maybe saying no. And one way, I know this is really, really difficult for a lot of people, myself included. I've really had to be intentional about learning how to say no and not worry about offending people, because I can't control them. I can control how I say no and do it gently and deliver it, but I can't say yes to everything. And that's very, very difficult to do. One thing I encourage you to think about is every time you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. Or every time you say yes to someone, you're saying no to someone else. So your job, if you're saying yes to your job, your friends, your church, whatever that is, fine. But in order to do that, who are you saying no to? Because more times than not, when we're saying yes to employers, friends, churches, whatever it is, yes, I think you should as much as you can. But you got to do it with a balance and consider, am I over yesing? And am I saying yes when I feel inside that I shouldn't? Because when I say yes to them, I'm saying no to someone else. Usually it's our families we're saying no to. And usually our families are the ones who take a beating, and they give and they give and they give because they want to see us helping friends and being a part of our church, or they understand the demands of, well, the job pays the bills and they get it. However, there comes a time where we have to learn to set boundaries, one for our own emotional, mental state of being, or the energy that we have and our well-being, but also for those closest to us. So just think about that. If I say yes this time, who am I saying no to, or what am I saying no to? And can I afford to do that right now? Secondly, I want to encourage you to prioritize your sleep and your bedtime routine, your rest. This is something I'm having to really learn to value. I used to want to get up extra early in the morning and start my day, but I noticed I felt off if I did. And I now know that I'm an HSP, which refers to sensory processing sensitivity in the nervous system. Another topic for another day. But I need a lot of sleep. That's the point. I need 8 hours of sleep at least a night, or it's just not functional. Okay, well, that means I need to be ultra disciplined and productive during my day because I can't get up enough, at 6 or 7 hours of sleep in the morning. I'm really affected if I wanted to lose those extra hour or two to start my day a little earlier. And I certainly can't stay up late vegging. And so I would encourage you to really put boundaries around your bedtime and how many hours of sleep you need, and be diligent in getting the sleep you need. Also, maybe think about taking your phone and not keeping it near your bed more than 6 feet away, where you kind of have to get out of bed to access it. I hear that's incredibly helpful as well. And then I would like to maybe encourage you to think about incorporating activities such that fill your tank and they don't take much out of you, right? So whatever that is for you, going on a hike in nature, maybe it's going for a swim, maybe it's going to the gym, whatever it is, begin incorporating some of those things where it doesn't use a lot of mental, bodily, or emotional energy to engage in. And it has more of a therapeutic effect, more of a positive effect, fills your tank. So whatever that is. And then last but not least, if you need to seek professional help, please do that. If you want, you can reach out to us at Whole Soul Counsel. The link for that's in the description, and we'd be happy to talk with you and see how we can help. But regardless, if you feel like professional care or help of any kind is needed to kind of help you get going in the right direction, please do not delay. Please do not avoid that. Please seek it out. That's really where I want to land the plane today. But know this, you're not alone, and that God wills your good. He loves you and he cares for you. And if you'll come to him and cast your burdens upon him, if you'll accept the invitation that he offers, right? Come to me, all who are heavy laden, wearisome and burdensome, and he'll give you rest. If you'll take him up on that, he will prove himself faithful. He'll be with you in the midst of these things, and he'll show up and he will help carry the weight and the burden. And I want to just conclude on the promise where the Father says, be still and know that I am God. And sometimes it's so incredibly hard to be still, but I do think that is at the root of a lot of our emotional burnout, is the pace in which we're running and the weight in which we're carrying. There are seasons where we need to run at a fast pace, and there are seasons where we need to carry heavy weight. But if those seasons are unbalanced, out of check, and prolonged, we will begin to experience negative side effects, and emotional burnout is one of them. And so hopefully these are some ways you can begin thinking about, hey, where do I need to examine my life, and how can I start taking steps towards healing from this emotional burnout? Hopefully these are a few things to kind of get your brain turning, get your wheel turning. Without further ado, I'll land the plane there, but I hope this was helpful for you, added value to you. As always, until next time, God bless you guys.